As 1937 began, this country's economic roller coaster was on a high. Another plunge was coming, but that winter, it seemed happy days were almost here again. The music went round and round, and it came out here.
If our confidence was recovering faster than our economy, we pretended not to notice. After all, more people were working now, weren't they? Stock prices were up, right? Corporations were announcing extra dividends again. Did you hear? The worst was over, wasn't it? Wasn't it? As if to prove it was, we went right out and bought something, and went right on proving depression is always part manic.
I push the middle valve down. The music goes down around below, below, below. Dealey-oh-ho-ho. Listen to the jazz come out. I push the other valve down. The music goes round and around. Whoa, and it comes out here. When the music goes round and round and round.
It comes out here, too. These are Americans. If the Democratic ideal and the Democratic New Deal had failed them, at least the now not-so-new Democratic president, in his second inaugural address, did not fail to mention them.
I see millions lacking the means to buy the products of farm and factory, and by their poverty, denying work and productiveness to many other millions. I see 1/3 of a nation ill-housed, ill-clad, ill-nourished.
Franklin Roosevelt had promised that in America, nobody would starve to death. He was wrong. Yet the poor claimed they didn't blame the president. They said he meant right. Maybe he did, but the Congress wasn't as cooperative as it had been, and the New Deal was about to be dealt out. Alphabet soup. The federal government, through programs like the WPA, Works Progress Administration, had given people jobs when private enterprise could not, but the government had gone deep in debt trying to run the country and remodel it at the same time. But oh my, what a New Deal the New Deal had been for art in America. John Houseman ran the Harlem branch of the Federal Theater Project.
The New Deal was very sensitive. It's not fashionable now, I know, but the fact is that there was a humanity and there was a decency and there was a sort of creative courage there, which was quite extraordinary.
Jobs for the artists, art for the masses. About 30 million Americans saw productions by the Federal Theater for next to nothing.
The Federal Theater was aimed at a broad-based, non-opulent audience. The fact that the tickets were that cheap simply brought people into the theater, particularly at the time when there was no money around anyway.
In the Federal Writers Project was a young actor named Studs Terkel.
Many communities, people in small towns saw flesh and blood actors in classics for the first time in their lives. It enriched their lives. When you think of that period, you think of something terribly exciting in the midst of adversity. It was a moment of contradiction, paradox, a moment of great despair and of exhilaration at the same time.
There was despair in the faces of the desperate. There was exhilaration in revealing that despair to comfortable America. A job for the photographers of the Farm Security Administration. One of them was Carl Maidans.
I came to the FSA late in the Depression years. The greatest depression in the history of the country. It was a very exciting prospect. Imagine, if you will, yourself being sent out to see America and to photograph anything you think you want to photograph. That was our assignment.
The FSA photographers showed us that there, but for the grace of God and good birth, stood we all.
It is an intimate picture of America, and all the photographers who made pictures for the Farm Security Administration became notable names among American photographers. The Dorothea Langs, the Arthur Rothsteins, the Russell Lees, the Walker Evans.
Most Americans experienced poverty secondhand, filtered through the sensitivities of photographers, actors, artists, writers. The White House had a direct pipeline, about 3,000 letters every day. Angry, hopeful, despondent letters were written to President and Mrs. Roosevelt.
Dear friend and lady of the White House, we have always tried to get by without help, but we can't feed our family and clothe them.
To our president, what we men want is work. We're not asking for anything but what we're entitled to. President Roosevelt, we are poor people, but we are human. We wish to be treated that way.
I'm a girl of 18 years old. If I won't get any help from you, dear Mr. President, then I'll take my life away. I can't stand it no longer. We were thrown out on the street a few times. I hate the way I'm living now.
We are in a land of plenty, but I see a good many of us are starving. I'm now at the point of desperation. All I want is a chance. It is my last hope and effort. All else has failed.
Sometimes when you had no job or a bad job, you just shouldered what you could and moved on. Carl Maidans captured such a couple forever.
I was in a car, and I saw them at a distance coming down the road. And in those years, when you saw two people walking down the road carrying what little they had, you knew that they were in trouble. They said that the plantation owners in that area paid cheap wages, too cheap for them, and they were on their way hoping to find another plantation where they could earn more money.
Thanks to these pictures, the 1/3 of America that was ill-housed, ill-clad, and ill-nourished had become inescapable.
We must make a record of what you see in happenings, in things, and in people, so that they will be distinguished, so that people who look at them will know what they are. And you must think of history when you're making these pictures. These pictures are going to last forever. They're going to be America's record of what was happening in America in these years.